Beautiful. I want to kindly welcome everybody in the house today. Just to let me know if you can see the screen where you are and tell me what you can see on the screen. Ridwan, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
So now what's showing
I
on?
can see documentation of individual project risk influence the estimate.
Wow, so you can see clearly. All right, we just have to do a little brush off, a little reminder of what we did yesterday, and then we move on to what we should do today. We started the project schedule management yesterday. We looked at the sub-processes within this knowledge area. We acquaint ourselves with plan schedule management. We talked about defined activities. We talked about sequencing activities and estimating activity duration. And also we introduced develop schedule and control schedule. And today we would be starting with develop schedule today. So just to remind us, we did lots of things yesterday, and today we would be doing more to build further. We talked about the level of accuracy that is required for our job. We talked about the adopted units of measurement, which I told you what 1 hour should mean according to your policies and procedures found in your project management plan. I talked about the rules of performance measurement and the threshold. I introduced the end value management. And we went on to talk about the reporting formats, the schedule performance measurements, which I talked about the schedule performance indexed in a way. And when we got to the defined activities, I told us that the defined activity, it's about furtherly cascading, furtherly decomposing those work packages which we got at the lowest level in the WBS. And that once we have them furtherly decomposed, we can now sequence them. We can now estimate their durations. And we went on to look at new things, new terminologies. We reminded ourselves of the scope baseline as what is needed for the defining activities. We also looked at the activity list, which is an output of the defining activity process, where I said the activity list would have all the identified activities on it. We talked about the activity attribute, which I said it's about the detailing of the individual activities, where they fall in the work breakdown structure, their IDs, their description, what comes before them and what comes after them and what they would be doing. And we went on to introduce milestones. We did so much on sequencing activities. In sequencing activities, we talked about the precedency diagramming method. We also talked about the activities on nodes, and we got ourselves acquainted with critical part, the near critical part, and I told us that critical part is about the longest duration in the project network diagram. And I also told us the importance of the near critical part, and that if care is not taken, the near critical part can be the critical part. So attention should be given to that. And yeah, lots of other things were done. We looked at the output of where the precedency diagramming method was spotted. We looked at different kinds of precedency diagramming method and the dependencies. We talked about the finish to start relationship, the finish to finish relationship, the start to start relationship, and the start to finish relationship. And that told us that we have different kinds of dependencies, which I introduced the mandatory dependencies, which I said this has to be about the nature of the job. There's no way we could beat it. And one of the examples used in explaining that was plastering of a building and painting the building. There is no way your expertise could have made you to paint a building before you plaster it. The job nature would require that you plaster and you wait for it to dry up before you paint it. Waiting for it to dry up could mean lag. Yesterday we talked about lag and leads also. So these are kinds of schedule constraints that we must consider when we are coming up with the project schedule. And as you look at this diagram, you would understand that these are activities on arrows, not activities on nodes. Yeah, which is quite different from the precedency diagramming method. The activity diagramming method has activities on arrows. All right. Yeah, you can see the different kinds of dependencies. And I told us about the external dependencies. These are things that are external to our project that we must observe before we schedule things. And in the discretionary dependency, I told us we can use another word, preferred logic, to describe it, another word, preferential logic, and another word, soft logic, to describe the discretionary dependencies. While the mandatory dependencies are the hard logic. This diagram was shown to us where we saw two tasks, A and B, and we saw that there is an overlap. Though they have finished to start relationship, but yet there is an overlap. An overlap of whatever days, months, hours, weeks given is called the lead. Then we looked at the same activities and we saw that one was over and yet the other did not start. The predecessor was over and the successor did not start. We waited a couple of days, couple of minutes, couple of hours to initiate the successor activities. And I told us that is a lag. Yeah. And this was the network diagram we saw yesterday. We saw SS here, a start-to-start relationship plus 10 days, which means they have differences of 10 days, but they have start-to-start relationship. I showed us between F and G, we have finished to start relationship with 15 days, and so forth. These are the things that we did, and also told us about analogous estimates, where which I and Nevik used the historical knowledge as an example to explain what analogous estimate is, saying that a job which could have been done by us or someone else in the past can also be used as a basis of estimate to predict the activity or the project duration of the project in hand. And I said the accuracy of analogous estimate could be limited in a way that it could be between 25% minus 25% or plus 75% accurate, and which is not too good when the project is on. We can only do that in the initiating phase of the project just to speculate, to give a glimpse of what the project may entail as regards the timeline. When we got to parametric estimate, I told us that this is the most accurate kind of estimate, where which someone is dragging out his ruler, dragging out his tape, and the person can measure the size of a block and looking at the space given and dividing the space over the size of a single block to come up with a number of blocks. And by so doing, the person can estimate the number of blocks in there. And this does not lie. I used an example about painting. I said the wall that had been measured can be painted with the right estimate. If you know what a square foot can take, you can multiply that to how many square foot you are to paint. Yeah. And that told us about the bottom-up estimate, the 3-point estimate. In the 3-point estimate, you remember that we did the project evaluation and review technique, and we looked at the formula as pessimistic plus 4 multiplied by the most likely and plus the optimistic, all divided by 6. But this can only be done in a situation where we have varying conditions that may likely play out. Look at it here. You look at the formula I want you to capture. That's for the beta distribution, and that's for our concentration here. All right. And this brings us to what we should be doing, starting off with today. Develop schedule. Remember, all your estimates had been done. You have estimated. You have looked at the activity durations. You have sequenced. And right now, you want to roll up. So develop schedule is that very process of analyzing the activity sequences, looking at the durations and also the resource requirements, and considering the constraints like I told you, the leads and the lags, to create the project schedule. And when we enter these activity durations and the resources into the schedule tool, the schedule can be generated, giving us the plan dates for the completion of the project and the plan date for the completion of all the individual activities. If it is a small project, we can drag out our graph sheet, our ruler, our pen or pencil to draw up the schedule. But if it's a large project, we need a software. For example, the MS project, the Primavera, and many other kinds of projects that could be used for scheduling. Like I told us, some activities could be so massive that you would be required to schedule 20,000, 30,000, 150,000, even 1,000,000 activity. Anything is possible. So that's about develop schedule. You're aggregating, you're summing up, considering the constraints. So what do we need? What we need are the inputs. These are materials, these are tools, these are documents that we must see to be able to come up with the schedule baseline. The inputs includes the project management plan, the project documents, the agreements entered by the partners, and also the enterprise environmental factors, the organizational process assets. And what do? We're still going to be repeating things. The kind of tools and techniques that we would use here would include the schedule network analysis. Remember, we came up with a network diagram in the previous process. So we just have to analyze them, look at the constraints and reanalyze and say, wow, it's okay. No, why not we reduce these or we increase these? And then we sum it up. And also the critical path method. You saw the critical path method, where which we establish the longest duration of the project network diagram. This is just a refresher to lots of you, I know. Then something new is showing up here, which is the resource optimization. Optimization is a powerful word. So these are part of the tools. I would explain that. The data analysis, we analyze the data. We also look at the leads and lags, the constraints. We talked about the schedule compression. Now, somebody would have to remind me to talk about schedule compression because it's a powerful mechanism for managing schedule and ensuring that we get our desired result. The project management information systems are needed. The agile release planning are also needed. But there are some output that will be gotten. And these are what we are going for. The first one is the schedule baseline. And what is the schedule baseline? The schedule baseline is the agreed upon schedule. Well, which means the judgments, everything we do must be in line with it. All our changes must be controlled towards it. We would ensure that things are not falling off or falling behind. And another output is the project schedule itself and the schedule data, the project calendars, the change requests, the project management plan, the project documents will be updated. So these are output. Now let's take a look at them one at a time. So what aspect of the project management plan do we want to see to be able to come up with the schedule? This includes the schedule management plan. The schedule management plan, like I said, is a subsidiary plan found in the project management plan. We still would need the scope baseline. The scope baseline is what gave birth to the schedule management plan, remember. So we want to ensure that things are in the right perspective. We go back and look at them and analyze, move further. As if something unwanted is found in it. If there is any, we expunge it off. The document we could be citing would include the activity list. Like I told us, the activity list has all the activities identified, all the activities defined, and also their attributes. The attributes would have to do with all the details, the descriptions, the WBS that they fall under, and their IDs, the basis of estimate, the duration estimate, the milestone list, the lessons learned register, the project schedule network diagram, and the resource calendars, resource requirement, and the risk registers. These are project documents that you would see. There is no way you would continue scheduling your project without citing the risk register. The risk register will show you the likelihood of events occurring, unwanted events occurring, unplanned events occurring. And if they may occur, what impact will they have on our project or activities? Risk is probability times impact. When we get to risk management, more will be shared. So agreements, these are documents from sellers or vendors with details of how they will perform the project work to meet the contractual commitment. If you don't know what they have promised, how would you schedule that? So that's why we want to see their promises. We want to cite their contract and the kind of agreement entered with these vendors, these sellers. And another tool is to analyze the data which we've gotten. And one thing we do is the what if analysis, the what if scenario analysis. What if we do this and this becomes our challenge? What would we do? What if when we are embarking on this, we run out of this? What would we do? And as we are asking these questions, we are coming up with response strategies. Then we can use some softwares to simulate the scenario, looking at the parameters and tell us before time what may likely play out. And one of these softwares can be the Monte Carlo. It's an analytical software that can tell us that. Okay. Yesterday I told us about the project management information system, which includes the scheduling software. Now agile would have to do with a kind of project management that would enable us plan things at the high level, talking about the summary of the timeline, and it will speculate into the release of this schedule. And according to PMI, we are planning things within 3 months at a time. We may not want to schedule things more than 6 months, so between 3 to 6 months, we want to ensure that we are done with a single iteration, and then we move on to another level when we plan again, and then we get things done, we close it out and we replan. So it also determines the number of iterations or sprints in the release and allows the product owner and the team to decide how much needs to be developed and how long it will take to have a releasable product based on business goals, based on the dependencies and some blockages, some barriers and impediments that could be found. This is about agile scheduling releases. So it's just another methodology that can enable us come up with an aspect of the schedule. And yeah, yeah, right. So I may not want to repeat rather the schedule analysis, which we've talked about, schedule network analysis. But well, let's take a look at it. This is a kind of strategy deployed that enable us to come up with project schedule. And it has to do with our analytical expertise, how we would be able to analyze the critical part, how we can come up with a critical chain method. And now another new word, critical chain, right? Yeah, very new. I'm going to explain it. So in this network, we are analyzing just the network, looking at the various things and the resource leveling to calculate the early and the late start and the finish date for the uncompleted portion of the project activities. Now, when we say early start and late start, sounding so strange, even to me, there is a time that the school door can be open for the children to come in, maybe 7 a.m. The security the security guard could have been on ground, the door is open, somebody can come in at that time. They may want to keep the doors till 7:30. And people who are coming in are not late, 7:30 to some days, or maybe to 8 a.m. So from that 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., we have 1 hour, right? That is to say, the earliest time someone could come to school is 7 a.m. That is early start. Some of your scheduled activities on your project may be allowed to start at a time, and yet the schedule can enjoy things without problems. Some of your activities may still be allowed to start maybe 1 hour after, and they will not impact on the succeeding or the successor activities. They will not delay the successor activity. Yeah. So, but anything away from the 8 a.m. will not start delaying. Maybe a teacher coming in after 8 a.m. And maybe that teacher is the one that is supposed to start off the devotion, which means the devotion time has already been imparted. So the earliest time that the teacher could come is 7 a.m. The latest time that the teacher could come is 8 a.m. So some activities are like that. If a teacher comes by 8 a.m., the school authority will not be hungry because nothing could have been lost. But if the teacher comes some minutes after 8 a.m., the program for the day could have been imparted. So these are early start. Now, this is how we calculate what is called the float. The difference between the late start and the early start is what? 1 hour, 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. And that 1 hour is called the playing time. So another word for the float is slack. Another word for slack is what? Playing time. That is just the difference between the early start and the late start. The other day, we looked at the network diagram, and that told us that the longest duration is the critical part. We can use the early start and the late start to identify the critical part also. Now, the critical part is that very part on the network diagram. Let's take a look at one single network diagram before we progress. It's good we talk upon what we are looking at. Okay, no, let me go down. Could be in the future. Sometimes I explain before we get there, and then when we get there, we'll just walk past it. Okay, all right. Let me go show you. Let's go down now. We're explaining about how beautiful. Now take a look at this diagram for what I'm explaining, right? These are activities on nodes. You can say activity A, activity B, activity C, and activity D before the finishing. So we have 4 activities, right? Somebody can kindly unmute and say, yeah, I can see 4 activities. Oh, I can't see it.
I can see it.
Beautiful. You're welcome. Now, when you look at the activity B, there are some numbers surrounding activity B. Look at activity A, numbers surrounding activity A. When we look at the longest duration, now let's go by the longest duration to establish the critical part. If this 5 that you see above A, I'm coming, let me look at my, okay. Now it's already showing in the key that the critical part has the tick line. We will confirm if they are right or not. And the faint arrow is the non-critical part because we have only 2 parts here. Nivik, do you agree with me? We have only 2 parts here, right?
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. So, but they are telling us, looking at this diagram, this box here, that the tick line is the critical part. Now, how do we ascertain that? We have to check if it is the longest part. Now, let's go. Before I now start introducing another way we can know. Looking at this box, we can see that this column, early start, the left-hand box at the left-hand top is early start. The left-hand box, sorry, the right-hand box and the right-hand top is the early finish, which is the 7 and the 8 o'clock I talked about. Then why the duration is in between, right? Look at the duration. Who can see that? Where my cursor is.
Yeah, I can see it.
Now let's go. If that's the duration, so we want to establish the longest duration. So activity A has 5 days or 5 minutes, say 5 days, right? Activity C has what? 10 days, right? Ridwan, kindly, somebody should kindly unmute and pick the word out of my mouth. You know, we are working with network. I wouldn't want to continue if I cannot hear you, but get your feedback. I should know that you are hearing me. Somebody kindly unmute and give me feedback as I speak, okay?
I said 10 for C.
Okay, yeah, 10 for C. What about D?
15.
So the total is how many?
The total duration?
Yeah.
30.
For this part, 5, 10, 15. How many?
30.
Beautiful. Now let's go over the faint part. 5, 5, 15. How many do you have there?
20.
So
20, yeah, 25.
25, yeah. So what would be your longest part?
The 30.
The 30, which is ACD, right?
Yep.
So if you must not play, which part would you not joke with?
Repeat that.
If you must take a part between these 2 parts serious, what part would you give the most attention?
A, C, and D, which is the longest.
Which is the longest. Now we use another word, another terminology called the float. Another word for the float is the slack. Another word for the slack is the playing time to define the critical part. Now, the critical part is that part with zero float or negative float, which means every activity on the critical part has no playing time. Every activity on the critical part like ACD cannot be played with. When you check this schedule network diagram, you will see that there are some parts that would have the float, which means those activities can start early. They have early start and late start. Now let's take a look at the float. The float is the difference between early start and late finish. Sorry, early start and early finish. And it's also the difference between late start and late finish. Look at the box again. You see that we have early start here. We have early finish here. So let's go to activity A. The difference between the early finish and the early start is how many? Are you seeing it? I think it's network. If you can't understand, let me know, I would explain. All right, you didn't see that. Read one, kindly unmute. I need to hear your voice. Somebody has to correspond with me. Read one, are you here with us? Nivik, your mic is on, but it seems you're very busy.
Can you hear?
Yeah, your voice just went down. Can you speak close to your mic?
Yeah, is this better?
Better, very much better.
So
Okay.
for A, you said the difference between the early start and the early finish, that would be 4.
Okay, that would be 4. But now we need to juggle it in a way. Now, having understood that, now let's go to early start and late start. Early start is 1 and late start is 1. So what will be the difference?
There's no difference.
The difference is 0, right?
Yes.
So that is zero float. Can you see that they dropped it in the box, right?
Oh, yes.
What about the difference between the late start and the late finish? What is the difference?
0.
Does this mean that activity A is a critical activity? Yes, because it has 0 float. Can you reiterate that? Do you
So if it has, so A, C, and D would be a critical. Oh, okay, yeah, because we did say A, C, and D. So they're critical because there's no flow. Oh.
Why are they critical?
Yes.
Why are they critical?
Because there's 0 flow.
Beautiful. So, but if we should go to activity B, does he have 0 float? How many float does he have?
Activity, which one? B? 5.
5 float. So that activity can start early and can start later, right? Somebody can play with it. Somebody can come later and start it later. And yet it will not impact on the next activity, right?
Correct.
So that is about how the critical part is calculated with float. Yesterday, I taught you the longest duration. And now I'm giving you. Now, this what you and I have done is called the forward pass. We look at the forward pass, we move from start to finish. There are times we can calculate the float from finish to start. It's still the same thing. When you look at early start, the difference between early start and late start is forward pass. When you come to look at the difference between early finish and late finish, is what? Backward pass. So this is one of the most difficult aspects of the project management. Most difficult. Up till now, some professionals in the US, in Australia, in Canada have still not been able to understand the network diagram and how to calculate the float. But today, Nivik can calculate it, right?
Yes.
But do you know why you can calculate it? Let me know. Give me 2 reasons why you can calculate it.
Because of you and because I'm in the class.
Oh, Nivik, you're so intelligent. You're pushing it to me, right? I thought you want to brag it to yourself because I'm intelligent. That's what I thought you wanted to say.
Yeah, because I'm intelligent.
Uh-huh. So you're sharing in my glory now, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. So that's that. This thing is simple, right? It depends on
Yes.
who is explaining it to you. Can really get messy, if you don't have. So that's about it. Now, so let's go back in time. Now we can just be seeing them and then we'll just be, So now, having seen that, you can actually understand what the critical part is. We have done the calculation. He said the critical part have either 0 or negative float. The one we saw was 0 float, right? It can still be negative. When it's negative, it's injurious, which means automatically they have lost time. If you have lost time, you'll be looking for all the time. But if you have not lost time and you do not have time, you ensure that you protect the one you have, right? Things becomes more injurious when you've lost time. What happened that all the people who promised to be in the class today are not in the class? What's going on? Huh? They really like to watch the video, but I really want them to be in the class. So you can use this table that you see here to draw a network diagram. And I think it's the responsibility I'm going to be given to you people at the end of today's class. So you draw a network diagram and it's easy, right? Now let's take a look at it. It said, assess customers' needs, which is activity A. Predecessor, the C here, this is predecessor, which means there is nothing happened before it, which means it is the very first activity, right? And the duration is how many weeks?
2.
Then move on to the next activity, which write and submit proposal. That is activity B. What is the predecessor? What happens before it?
A.
A. What is the duration of B?
1 week.
So you move on now. Take a look at F. F. What is the predecessor of F? D and E, right?
Yep.
Which means 2 activities are coming into F, right? The arrow is coming from 2 places, D and E into F. And moving on, the duration is 5. And F leads to G. That is to say that the predecessor of F is, and the predecessor of G is F. So the last activity will be what? G, right?
Yes.
And the duration is 1. Don't you like this? Won't you be able to draw a network diagram for anyone with this?
Yes.
Should I drop it in the group as an assignment for us?
I'm confident.
You're hitting your chest to that. That's serious. Okay, you see the backward pass, forward pass, see the backward pass. So you can read later I'll drop the slide in the group so you can read and then acquaint yourself with everything we have done. So now take a look at that. The same network diagram. Is it repeating itself? Or is it a different one?
Looks the same.
Looks the same, right? So we've talked about the what if scenarios, right? I've explained it that this is an analysis of the question, what if the situation presented by scenario X happens? What if a schedule network analysis is performed using the schedule to compute the different scenarios, such as delaying a major component delivery? Let's move on. There are lots of other things. So we've talked about leads and lags. Now schedule compression. Somebody wants to be a professional Now with this schedule compression, I'm going to be showing this. Compression. Do you pronounce that a different way?
No, compression. That's right.
Compression is like you're reducing something, right?
Yes.
Something that is, now we are talking about time, which means an activity that is meant for 5 days, you want to reduce it to 4, right?
Yes.
Okay, you are running out of time, or you need more time now, right now. The days left is just 4, and the activity could have taken 5 days. What would you do? How do you save the time? The strategy is schedule compression, and we have 2 strategies. 1, the crashing method. 2, the fast tracking method. Look at it. Crashing. They all have their individual risk. A schedule compression crashing is a schedule compression technique in which cost and schedule trade-offs are analyzed to determine how to obtain the greatest amount of compression for the least incremental costs. Example of crashing could include approving overtime, bringing additional resources, or paying to expedite delivery to activities on the critical path. Now, this is too much grammar for NIVIC, and I'm going to localize. That means that you and Ridwan are being scheduled to complete an activity for 6 hours. And your manager has announced to you that you only have 4 hours to get that job done. But they have looked at your capacity, what you can do and what Ridwan can do. You can only do 3 within that time, which put together 6 hours. And they want to reduce it to 4 hours. That is not possible. The only way it can be possible, they would have to come and bring in Victory to come and join you, right? With the same capacity. That is the only way you can achieve that pocket of job and complete it for 4 hours. That is crashing. When we have run out of time, we want to gain time, we now start looking for those activities that we can crash. But do you know that we can crash all kinds of activities? There are some activities you cannot crash. Yeah. But this is the best way of compressing schedule. The next one is the fast tracking. Yeah, I said the crashing only works for activities where additional resources will be shortened. Will shorten the duration. So when additional activity cannot shorten the duration, it's not possible. So you must analyze to know when additional activity can shorten the duration. And this may result in increased risk and or cost. Remember, you're going to be paying the additional workforce, right? So the price had gone up. So now let's go back. I want to explain what crashing is. Let's look for a network diagram. You can see my board. I've brought back that very first diagram we use in explaining what the float was all about. Look at activity A, which the duration is 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 hours. Happening at the same time, happening sequentially with activity C, which 5, 10, and 15, which is the longest duration. Now you now discover that we've run out of time. We need to save 5 days. Ridwan, if we need to save 5 days, because this is 30 days, but from the days left is 25 days left. So we need to ensure that we finish this project. So crashing told us that we have to bring more hands into C or more hands into 5, into D to ensure that they get it done earlier, right? Is it not what crashing said?
Yes.
Okay. What if, and now look at this activity D, which is 15 days, and bring this activity D, I remove it from this place. You know, it's happening sequentially with C, but I want to make it concurrently and bring it back to where A and C is and put it on top, and I announce it that activity D now will not happen at the end of C. It will happen at the beginning of A. Let activity D as what? A start-to-start relationship with A. So which means as we finish A and as we are finishing C, D will be finishing, right? Because A and C are both 15 minutes and D alone is 15 minutes. So which means all of them will finish what? At the same time, right?
I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Okay, you don't understand. Let me explain. Activity A, 5 days. Activity C, 10 days. Both of them put together is how many days?
15.
Now go to activity D. How many days?
15.
The relationship between activity C and D, is it not finish to start?
Start to finish. So
Finish to
C
start.
goes,
Finish to start.
what? Why is it C to D is finished to start?
Yes, you must finish C before you start D. Now, is it not what they
Yes,
always
yes,
say?
yes, yes.
It's finished to start, right? So
Yes.
now you're going to pick D now and you want to alter the relationship. Now you want to finish within 15 minutes. You carry D back to where A is and say, A, I want you to start at the same time with D. Let you, both of you should have start to start relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we start A, we start D now. When we are done with A, D could have gone 5 days, right?
Uh-huh.
When we move on, when we could have been through with C, D could have done 15 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there remained no activity, right?
Yes.
So the project duration, instead of 15 days, 30 days, is now many days?
It would be 15.
Yes. So when an activity that is meant to run concurrently and that is meant to run sequentially is being made to run concurrently, it becomes fast tracking. That is another way of this schedule compression. And you have just saved time and money now. Do you like that technique?
Yes, but I was under the impression if it's a critical path, it can't be changed.
Oh,
So,
I feel like frying egg for you, sandwiching it in the bread and giving you Fanta right now. That's so brilliant. Yeah, if it's on the critical part, we can't play with them. We can't change their orientation, right?
mm-hmm.
We can only juggle others in some other areas. It is very risky for us to get that done. There is no way plastering and painting can happen at the same time. Is it possible?
No.
We must paint and wait for it to dry up. We must plaster rather and wait for it to dry up before we paint.
Mm-hmm.
So these activities on the critical part cannot be done that way. We can only crash them. So that's why fast tracking is risky. It's riskier than crashing. But I only use that terminology, that illustration to explain what fast tracking is. I don't really
Got it.
believe you can forget these two things. Would you?
No.
Yeah. Because of what? Let's see who has the glory. Say it. I want to know who has the glory today. You or me? Why do you think you always remember it? Oh, she's out. Leave you're in. Why do you
I'm
think?
here.
Why do you think you always remember that?
Because for the critical path, it can't be changed. It's running sequentially.
No, The only way you could only remember it is because you are intelligent, or
Ah.
you have been taught by a professional. So which one are you going for? Let me know who has the glory.
I'm gonna do both.
Oh, okay. Both
I'll
on
do them
how, so
concurrently.
how many percentage are you giving me?
70. I'll give you 70.
I trust you. You always respect your teacher. You're a good person. All right. So we now move on to, so that's about that. These are important things that you are learning now. So if you are asked to manage the project schedule, can you do that for me?
Am I asked what?
To manage the project schedule, can you do that for me?
Yes.
If peradventure they are running out of time, can you advise them for me?
Yes.
And you will look at it if crashing is the best way, and you will advise them in accordance. If fast tracking would be most suitable, right? You advise
Yes,
them.
sir.
These are the things that I really want us to learn. So let's see. So fast tracking, a schedule compression technique in which phases or activities normally performed in sequence are performed in parallel. Fast tracking may result in rework. Oh, that's a big risk. Result in rework, which means if you did not do it well, you will do it again. Fast tracking only works if activities can be overlapped to shorten the duration. So that means that painting and plastering cannot, there's no overlap, right? So we cannot fast track them. So the same scheduling tools, and we have our output, the project schedule becomes our output. And in the project schedule, the other day you were not in the class, I know. I show them the bar charts, I show them the milestones, and we talked about it, and we saw how the project schedule is. We can use bar charts to explain the durations, the activity durations, use it to represent the start and the end date, as well as the expected durations. So when we get to the Primavera, you can now see how that works. So the output becomes the project schedule network diagrams. Also, we would have our baselines, the schedule baselines as an output. A schedule baseline is a specific version of the project developed from the schedule network analysis. Yeah. And why is it a baseline? Because it has been accepted and approved by the project management team as what would guide the project timeline. So that is that. Schedule data is there. Whatever we are getting, we are analyzing. Then in a place where we see that things were not well defined, we may raise a change request for modifications. And once it's been approved, we go back to incorporate it into the project management plan. And what happens? We call it a document to honor, and we move on to. So, and another thing we do under this schedule data analysis, we do the scheduling of contingency reserves. Oh, I almost missed this one. Contingencies are buffers, not the professional words. They are buffers. They are
They're
additional
what?
time buffers. I don't know if you may want to pronounce it buffers. Buffers. How do you pronounce that?
Oh, buffers.
Buffers. Oh, where I'm from, we are so, we pronounce things the way that most suit us, okay?
Yeah,
Pardon
it's
us.
okay. No, it's okay. Thank you.
So we got that. Now you looked at an activity that could have lasted for 4 hours, and he said instead of writing down 4 hours, you want to write 4 hours, 40 minutes. You want to give it additional 40 minutes. Peradventure, some challenges may arise. Some delays may occur, so you know that your schedule will not be impacted. That is a contingency. So what is your contingency? 40 minutes, right? And that 40 minutes to take care of the delays that you see that may likely happen. Now, because you know that delay may likely happen, we call this kind of contingency reserves. Because you know, we call them the known unknown. That's another professional term for them, known unknown. You know that the rain may likely fall, and if it falls, it may impact on the start time. Would it really fall? You are not sure, but we are in the season. That is why we say is the known unknown. So whenever you are defining activities, their durations, ensure that you put contingencies like 10%. Because I told you that parametric estimate can give you an accuracy of 10%, an accuracy of 90%. So if it can give you an accuracy of 90% to 100%, you want to ensure that you're backing things up. So always add minimum of 10%. But this minimum of 10% is not like you adding it. It must be agreed upon. The team must come up with it as a policy that for every individual activity, a contingency of 10% would be added. And same thing could be done in cost too, in cost estimate, where something of $100, additional $10 could be added, making it $110 for that activity. But this is not the only kind of reserve we have. Contingency reserve is not the only kind. We have another one, the management reserve. Management has looked at us and said we have done a good job, but then they look at Nivik and I, they say, oh, we can't trust them. Why not we keep money apart somewhere, hidden somewhere that they would not know this money or this time frame may not be declared, may not be in the schedule. Yes, they have told us 3 months, but see, let's have additional 15 days in our minds and we have it there. Peradventure, they got into some problems and they become helpless and they beg for some days further. We know it will not be impacting on the actual time that we need those deliverables. And so they tell you that ensure that you finish the project between now and the next 3 months, but whereas they actually need it between now and the next 3.5 months. So 15 days, it's the management reserve. And same thing could be done in the cost. When we have declared a budget of $2 billion, management could still have some money kept somewhere, like additional $200 million hidden somewhere we are not even aware, because they would want to protect and preserve their project and they have additional money because they can't declare all they have. What if a shark swam assaulted out of the river and come and stop the project for 2 days, or come and swallow 10% of the budget? What would they do? They are stuck, right? So that amount of money kept, that amount of time kept is for the unknown unknown. They really did not tie it to anything. They really did not know what would go wrong, like we knew when we are scheduling the activity. They just kept it there. Yeah, and be dancing as if nothing is elsewhere. Like nothing is elsewhere. And all of a sudden, they have something there. So that's about that. Now, so at the end, the business is going. So modifications, we talked about change requests. And this brings us to control schedule. And control schedule is the last process in the project schedule management knowledge area. So in this, the process is the process of monitoring the status of the project to update the project progress and manage the changes to the schedule baseline. Now, in this area, we must determine the current status of the project schedule. We will look at what is influencing, what factors can influence the changes, what factors can influence the schedule. We will determine if the project schedule has changed, and then we would actually we will try and manage the actual changes. So these are what we do in the control schedule. You don't want anything to happen to the schedule baseline, so you are protecting it. That's about control schedule. So what do we need? We need the project management plan, the project documents, the work performance data, the organizational process asset, and everything we did in the previous one, in the previous area. As regards the tools and techniques used, we have the data analyzed, we have the critical path method, we are checking things over and over. We look at the project management information system. Now I said resource optimization is the only new terminology that is coming in here, because we still have leads and lags as our tool and technique. We still have the schedule compression, which you know to be fast tracking and what? Crashing. So the resource optimization, what is it? Optimization is a powerful terminology that will enable us to ensure we make the most out of our resources. Just like a man who wants to use a single stone to kill two birds. If we are hiring a wheelbarrow, we want to ensure that the wheelbarrow can serve us optimally. We still want to use it to do some casting at the same time to transport certain other things. That is optimization. You have two projects in two communities, two activities in two separate communities, and you are bringing a civil engineer in, you are bringing a tester in, an inspector in. What do? The supervisor you're bringing in, you are scheduling the supervisor in a day where the two projects could be due for inspection. So you just bring him in into town and you use it to inspect two projects. That is optimization. So this is the new term that just got into here. Then the output becomes the work performance information, because we are controlling things. We are sending out information to the stakeholders. We are coming up with new schedule. We are making forecasts if we are behind, ahead, or right on time. That is the schedule forecast. That's an output. Forecast must come out. If you are 5 days behind, 5 weeks behind, then change will be requested. The project management plan will be updated. The project documents also would be updated. So these are the new things that are here, no other thing that we have not said before. So this brings us to the end of that knowledge area. Yeah. So do you have a question?
No. Are we able to move on to 8?
To 7?
Wait, 7?
No, we should not. I thought we could cover 7 today, but you can see how far we went.
Yeah.
So we have to call it a day. We'll talk about 7 this next weekend, which is the project cost management. You see the money, right?
Yeah.
These are Nigerian tiny money, man. Beautiful money. Money we revalue. I'm telling you. And this currency is taking over. Believe me.
Thank you, sir. This was